Hi everybody, I'm Manasa of class 10 from TSWREIS Rayapatti. Today I'm in front of you with an interesting topic. Today we are going to discuss what is language, how is language formed, language development, relationship among language, literature and cognition, how language and literature influence on thinking and reasoning, and also language learning pyramid. We are going to discuss these in our session. How does mother know the difference? How can mother know the difference by the baby's voice? How does the baby express her pain to her mother? With cry. And how does the baby express her pain to her mother? With cry only. But are the two cries similar? How can mother know the difference? The two cries are not similar, but mother know the difference by the baby's voice and pitch. Mother can identify the feeling and emotion of the cry. If one crow dead, all crows gathered together. How do other crows know that their mate is hurt and in need of help? Why do monkeys rush towards their friends to help? When the birds and animals are in need or when they are hurted, they make some sounds. Other birds and animals also know the difference in their voice. They can identify the feeling and they can understand the situation. So, expressing our feelings is started by birth through sounds, and also animals and human beings use sounds to give information to their groups, and they use specific sound for specific information. Later, these sounds changed into language. What is language? The communication of information through symbols arranged according to the systematic rules. A cognitive ability central to communication. Without language, our ability to transmit information, acquiring knowledge and cooperate with others would become difficult. So, language is very important to communicate with others. We have some elements to learn the language. Grammar is the system of rules that determine how our thoughts can be expressed. Language is the complex system with many subsystems like phonology, syntax and semantics. Phonology is the study of phonemes, that means sounds. The smallest basic unit of speech may affect the meaning and of the way we are using these sounds to form a word and produce meaning. Syntax, the ways in which words and phrases can be combined to form a meaningful sentence. For example, TV down the ton. Is it meaningful sequence? Obviously not. It is not a meaningful sequence. Just translation from mother tongue to foreign language. Various turn down the TV. This is the meaningful sequence. And next, semantics. The rules governing the meaning of words and sentences. Semantic rules allow us to use the words to convey the subtle changes in the meaning. For example, the truck hit Laura versus the Laura was hit by the truck. Both sentences are meaningful, but their meaning is different to each other with one word. Such kind of sentences are semantics. All these subsystems form an independent network and integral system like human body. Language has its own shape. Then how does the language develop? The first step of development of language is babbling, which occurs at the age of 3 months to 1 year. Even deaf children also display their own form of babbling. After the age of 6 to 8 months, that ability begins to decline. Infants begins to specialize in the language that which they are exposed as neurons in their brains and respond to a particular phonemes infants routinely hear. After 1 year age, actual word formation begins. In English, there are typically short forms that start with consonant sounds such as b, d, m, p and t. This explains why mama and dada so often among the baby's first word. Language comprehension precedes language production. Then they start two-word combinations, building blocks of sentences and sharply increase the number of different words they are able to use. By the age 5, acquisition of language is relatively completed. Language developed in 3 stages. Those are Old English, Medieval English and Modern English. There are some changes in these 3 stages from Old English to Medieval English and Medieval English to Modern English. For example, thy is used in Old and Medieval English. In Modern English, it transformed as your, and thee is also used in Old and Medieval English. In Modern English, it transformed as him. Art is also used in Old and Medieval English. In Modern English, it transformed as hurt. And thou also used in Old and Medieval English. In Modern English, it transformed as you. Like that, there are lot of developments in the language from Old English to Medieval English and Medieval English to Modern English. Now, we are using Modern English, right? We know what is language and how does the language develop. Then, how language literature transformed. We all know that English is not a derived language. Many words are taken from the other languages such as Greek, Spanish, German and Latin words are also included in the language. Language literature transformed from known to unknown, complex to simple and royal to social. Language literature was very complex and limited to the royal families in olden days. But now it become very simple and social issues are given priority as themes. We know what is language, what is literature and we know what are the literature forms also. But we are unknown with the word cognition. What is cognition? The term referring to the mental process involved in gaining knowledge and comprehension. Cognition is the technological expression for the process of thought. Cognitive function can be defined as cerebral activities that leads to knowledge and mechanism of acquiring information. Cognition is a several process in our brain. Then, what is the relationship between language, literature and cognition? Every human activity is connected with our brain. Language literature forms such as songs, dance, books have a great impact on our cognition. Language literature forms makes illiterate people easy to understand. Generally, we read books. The theme of the book may change our attitude, ambition, and behavior. Literature reading enables us to develop positivity. Songs and dance make the language literature easy to understand. We can convey the theme directly to the audience through lyric rather than the reading. But audience remember the songs more than the sentences they read. Dance, drama, plays, skit have a tremendous impact on viewers. The central theme of these literature forms can be imposed even into the illiterate people. Illiterate people, they cannot understand by reading sentences, and some of them they are not able to read. So, these literature forms imposed even into the illiterate people, and these literature forms make them to understand easily. We also including these literature forms in our curriculum also, such as biography, autobiography, dance forms, songs, mono actions. These are included in our curriculum also. If teacher says to play a drama, they prepare well and perform in front of their classmates or in the assembly. So, by the drama that impact on students and audience. So, we also convert the biographies and autobiographies into mono actions. We know the biographies of Savitri, Rudramadevi and many of them. We can convert these biographies into mono action. By this mono action dramas, plays, we understand it more. Earlier people, they attract easy to the literature forms. Why they attract easily? Because they understand by the illiterate forms, by the literature forms like drama, plays, skit. They understand these literature forms easily. So, they attracted easy to the literature forms. Then, influence of language on thinking and reasoning. The notion that language shapes and may determine the way people in particular culture perceive and understand the world. Language provides us with categories that we use to construct our view of people and events in the world around us. Consequently, language shapes and language produces thoughts. Most recent research refutes the linguistic relativity hypothesis and suggests instead that thoughts produce language. Still, the linguistic relativity hypothesis has not been entirely discarded. A newer version of this hypothesis suggested that speech pattern may influence the language. Chomsky suggested that human brain has a neural system, the language device that not only lets understand the structure language provides, but also gives us strategies and techniques for learning unique characteristics of our native language. However, evidence collected by neuroscientists suggested that human brain has a neural system and the ability to learn the language is tied to specific neurological development. For instance, learning theorists contended that the apparent ability of certain animals such as chimpanzees to learn the fundamentals of human language contradicts and the innate linguistic capability view. The mere ability to pose such a questions underscores the distinctive nature of human ability to think. Thinking is the manipulation of a mental representation of information. A representation may take the form of word, sound or data of any other sensory modality stored in our memory. We begin by considering our use of mental image, concepts and the building blocks of sentences. Language, literature and cognition. Every person has a knowledge and they can store something in their mind for long time or short time according to their work and ability. Here we are seeing the learning pyramid. By lecture method, they can store only for 5% in their memory. For example, I am teaching you in lecture method. By this, you can store this content in your mind only for 5%. When you read novels, storybooks or whatever you read, that content is rememberable for you for 10%. By the audio visuals, you watch movies and you listen the songs. That content will be stored in your mind for 20%. And by demonstration, we have practicals in physics, bioscience and chemistry. By these practicals, we can store that content in our mind for 30%. Group discussion 50%. We already have quartet groups in our classes. We are discussing in groups. By the group discussion, that content will be stored in our mind for 50%. And practicals. We are conducting field trips and science fairs in our society. By that content is stored in our mind for 75%, because when we are conducting science fairs, we are preparing more models and we are doing more experiments. By that, we can store that content in our mind for 75% and teach others. When you are going to teach, you collect more information about that content. So, by collecting more information, you gain knowledge. So, by that, you can store that content in your mind for 90%. So, teaching others is one of the best way to learn something. We have 8 ways to develop metacognitive skills. Know you don't know it all. You should know the gaps in your knowledge and you have to fulfill those gaps in your knowledge. Set yourself great goals. The goals should be challenging and realistic. Whatever the goals you have, that goal should be challenging and in high level. Prepare properly great goals. Minutes preparation saves hours later. Preparation and planning is most important for everything. Without preparation, you may perplex and you may confused. To avoid that confusion, you have to prepare before you are going to reach and it saves your time. Ask yourself good questions. You have to ask yourself for better. When you ask yourself, it makes you to think about it. So, questioning also thinking improves your thinking process. And monitor your performance. Don't wait until the end to see how you are doing. Every minute, check your performance, whether you are doing good or not, whether the audience are able to understand or not. You have to check your performance every minute and go for the better. Keep a diary. This will improve your self-awareness. Diary tells about you and your attitude. So, diary also may change your attitude. Seek out feedback. You should take the feedback after you delivered a speech or something. You should take the feedback. They given feedback whatever the mistakes you have done before. So, this also improves your knowledge base and it makes your presentation better. React better to the feedback. You have to react better to the feedback. When you take the feedback, you have to change yourselves. If you did not change, the feedback they given is waste. So, you have to change yourselves after the feedback. They said what are the mistakes we done. So, we have to correct those mistakes in our next presentation. We have to think it positively. The feedback they given is positive or negative, but we have to take it as positive. When we take positive, we react it to the positive. And we have to react, when we react positively, we can change our attitude positively. And literature forms imposed even into the illiterate people. So, mono action and dramas, plays, skit have a great impact on all the people. Now, in our society, we are including these literature forms in our curriculum also. And every person has a knowledge and they can store something in their mind for long time or short time according to the cognitive ability as we learned in the learning pyramid. If any person want to learn something, they should involve in that. When a person acts in something, that can be rememberable for them for long time. If we want to learn, we should involve in that. We should act in that. And we have to work for that. When we do like that, that is rememberable for us. So, cognition. First, cognition. If we want to express anything, first we think in our mind through cognition. We have to learn the language. Without language, we cannot communicate. So, cognition is very important to know all about this and to express our feelings. First, whatever we feel, that is through cognition and we produce sounds in a language. Later, these we express in literature forms. At last, these literature forms enhances the cognition. First, we start with cognition and also that literature forms enhances our cognition. So, it is a very important, cognition is the most for everything. Without cognition, we cannot think, we cannot speak and we cannot do anything. Cognition means understanding. So, cognition is very important and every people think through the cognition. At first, we think that mother can identify the baby's feeling and emotion of the cry through her cognition. So, cognition is very important. Birds also identify the sounds through cognition only. So, cognition is most important for everything. So, at last, I thank to TSAT Network, TSWREIS Society and I thank to my mentor teacher Sridevi Madam, my principal Chava Jyoti Garu, and our beloved Secretary Sir R.S. Praveen Kumar Garu, and thanks to TSAT Network.
टाइम